Hello everyone, and welcome to another couple of mech suits that I've built for my LEGO world. I feel like this could almost be a versus episode since these two are on very different sides of whatever passes for law in my LEGO universe, so with that in mind, let's play a game. We'll go through both of these builds individually, and at the end, you leave a comment telling me who you think would win in a 1v1. And as always, if you like these builds and want to make them yourself, while also supporting the channel, you can find instructions over on my PayHip page. The link will be in the description and in my pinned comment down below. First up is the Axlepunk, and he's what you would call unsafe. There's running with scissors, and then there's this guy, flying around the city in barely functioning, probably homemade, mechanical roller skates the size of F1 tires with a sword strapped to his back and his head exposed. To be fair, he is wearing a helmet, which I'm sure makes all the difference when you hit a cement wall at 80 miles per hour in a steel death trap with pointy pits. That being said, I really like the Axlepunk. In fact, this may be one of the most purely satisfying builds I've ever made, which probably sounds like an overstatement, but hear me out. I don't like neon yellow. LEGO's been including it in more and more city sets, as they often do when they introduce a new color, and I have just not been able to make myself like it. It feels cheesy and toyish in a way that most LEGO colors just normally don't. However, LEGO makes the parts and builders find new ways to use them, especially the ones we don't immediately see a use for. So as soon as I saw this print included in the LEGO City electric car set, I knew I had to find a way to use it. Soon after that, I realized that neon yellow would actually look really good when paired with dark bluish gray, especially with the slightest bit of trans light blue thrown in. From there, the image started forming in my mind of a mech suit with an extreme sports kind of vibe, a slender, athletic build, something that looks agile and quick on its feet. In fact, why use feet at all? Why not have wheels instead? And those printed tiles would actually make some pretty cool looking knee pads. All these ideas came together wonderfully and ended up creating the Axlepunk. Also, as a side note, those wheel-based feet that I've been using for my LEGO Racers themed mechs, this is the prototype. They all came from the Axlepunk. Looking at him now, I am thrilled with how his colors came out. The neon yellow works perfectly with the gray and the blue, and the whole thing looks almost exactly how I pictured. He looks like he's sponsored by Monster, and for once, I don't mean that as an insult. Instead of giving him just another gun, I decided to go for an urban ninja and outfitted the punk with a sword and some throwing stars. For some reason that I struggle to put into words, the fact that the mech itself is not even explicitly ninja themed makes these weapons even more appealing to me. My favorite part was actually finding places for his weapons to be stored. I love the throwing stars being mounted right on the back of his hip, so you can imagine him grabbing and throwing multiple of them in really quick succession. But the real treat for me was discovering that this modified plate piece can actually hold his sword really well. There's little ridges in the hollow stud that make it possible. I love the look of the handle poking up next to his head and the interesting angle of the blade sticking out from his back. I love posing him like he's in a duel and he's ready to pull his blade at a moment's notice. Are these weapons practical? Do they make any sense? Absolutely not. But they're pretty cool, and I try to at least halfway justify it by imagining the throwing stars are able to release a small EMP burst when they hit something. So you can imagine them being at least somewhat effective in mech-to-mech combat. Sword is just sword. Sword has been sword for over 5,000 years, and I see no reason to change sword now. As for the Axlepunk himself, I imagine he is exactly that, just another cyberpunk thug looking for an easy score. Hire him for a heist, a protection job, or just to throw a dumpster through a shop window. As long as you pay up, he's probably down for it. Now that I've gushed about Axlepunk long enough to forget that this is actually supposed to be a double feature, let's talk about that second build. This lovable chunk of lead projection is known as the Tactical Armored Combat Suit, or TAC suit for short, and it is yet another mass-produced product created by the Future Mechanics Corporation. If you have seen any of my Future Mechanics builds before, you know that they usually come in the standard white with a little bit of yellow color scheme, but the TAC suit was designed to be used for covert stealth operations, and instead comes in black with a little bit of green, because I guess green always means stealth. The suit is small but heavily armored, which makes it ideal for use in the narrow alleyways and corridors of the lower city that offer little to no cover, but plenty of opportunities for ambush. Of course, this does come at a cost of maneuverability. While a squat little ball of armor may be ideal in tighter spaces, the TAC suit is at a pretty obvious disadvantage in more spacious areas, where faster opponents would have the ability to run circles around its slower frame. However, the TAC suit makes up for this weakness by actually just not even having a weakness at all. all. Just when you thought you had it flanked, the TAC suit makes like a good pair of Crocs and kicks itself over into sport mode. Longer limbs and a bit of jet propulsion mean that the suit is able to run, jump, and climb faster than you can. And it also has a gun. I like to imagine whole squads of these suits just being dropped in the middle of nowhere and sprinting under the cover of darkness towards their target before shrinking down into indestructible wrecking balls and wreaking havoc on an unsuspecting competitor's factory or something. And if they do encounter a space too small for them to fit, they can simply dispatch their pilots to act as ground troops, while the suit itself provides fire support, Titanfall style. This build was also a great excuse for me to use one of those new action figure shoulder pieces, because you cannot look at this and tell me it doesn't scream cockpit. It even has enough room for the pilot to keep his visor on. So that's Axlepunk and the TAC suit. Who's got your bet? An oversized roller derby participant with a sword and probably a death wish, or a robot commando with a growth spurt? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really like this video, feel free to subscribe and leave a comment telling me who you think comes out on top. I've been M1NDxBEND3R, and I will talk to you later.